Alright guys, here's the internal review of the STG 44. Now you're probably wondering why the gearbox isn't here. Well, I don't think there's any video on how to take this gun apart, and it might confuse some people, so I thought I'd just show how to take the gun apart as well while I was doing this. It's pretty simple, but it can be confusing at sometimes. First thing you're going to want to do, make sure the gun's safe. Disconnect the battery as I already did. I took off the whole stock. Take out the magazine, set that aside. And now this is where the real breakdown comes in. You got 3 Allen heads right here. Now there's 2 you have to remove. The front one near the mag release, and then the front one on the main body. Alright? So take your Allen set. I think it is, let me see, 3/16. Yeah. You take out the front one right here, like this, and then the farthest one in the front. They don't screw in very far, so you don't have to worry about it. And make sure you don't over tighten these as well, because if you do, you will end up stripping it and your gun will fall apart. Once those 2 are removed, you can take this whole plate and take it off. Now that will expose the mag release, the front of the hop-up right here, and the gearbox. The next thing you're going to want to do is flip, well actually no, we can do this first. Down at the pistol grip, there's a small Phillips head screw right here. You're going to want to take that out. Take that out there. Now you're going to want to flip over the gun. There's another very tiny Phillips head right there. You're going to want to take that screw out as well. Sorry if this is off camera, I'm just taking the screw out. And this screw is very long, it's also a very tiny head, so you're going to want to make sure you don't, strip it out or anything like that. Flip the gun back over, just lost an inner barrel there. Alright, now once you've removed those, you're going to kind of want to work this next piece off. It can be kind of hard to get a grip on it, but it should just pull right out. This is just the front upper piece of the section there. And now you can see the gun is, basically exposed a lot. We still got more steps to do. This lower other side of the piece will come off too. You have another Allen head right here. I think it's the same size Allen head as before. Let me check. Yep, it is. You're going to want to remove that. Set that to the side. Now once that piece comes off, this lower piece should just slide off the gun, like so. Set that to the side. You're also going to have this small brass, tube come off. This is just the tube that goes in the back that holds the pin in place, so you're not going to want to lose that. Now to get the actual gearbox out, it can be kind of tricky. You might need 2 people, but it is pretty simple. What you're going to want to do is kind of like a UMP if you've ever worked on one. You push the hop-up forward slightly because it is on a spring, and you just basically take the gearbox and pull down. Now I'm going to have to do this off camera because I got to get a better grip on it quick, but I'll just do that again to show you. You push forward on the hop-up unit all the way, and then you take the gearbox and just pull straight downward. Alright? There we go. And the gearbox will just slide right out. Now before we get to the gearbox, this is where you can also change your hop-up unit. If you do decide to, you do have to kind of twist it to the side, and it should come sliding right out of the back, if I can get it. So then there's your front end. We'll set that aside. Hop-up unit, like I said, we use a standard M4 inner barrel length, and I'll actually show you. This is the stock inner barrel on the STG. As you can see, it's it's not much longer, maybe 2.5 inches longer. Not that much though. Alright, so now we'll get to the gearbox. It uses a high torque motor. As you can see, it's not a JG type motor or anything. just a standard high torque motor. It does, as you can see, it's a version 2, but it uses a motor cage, kind of like a version 3. To get this motor cage off is a pretty simple task. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. You want to remove these front 2 screws. This one looks like Jacob lost one in the front, but you're going to want to remove these 2 screws, and then the 2 on the other side. Now before you go and pull the motor off, you're probably going to want to disconnect the motor connectors. The black one is kind of a tight fit, but it'll come off. And then the red one here comes off pretty easily. Once you've done that, you should be able to pull down, and the motor comes off. Like I said, this is a high torque motor. It's a pretty good motor. It gives it a great rate of fire. Half moon style pinion gear if you need it. Aside. Next, you're going to want to remove these 2 screws on the plate right here. Phillips head. Wires might get in the way like it is right now. And then you're just going to want to pull it off, navigate your wires through. You're going to want to be careful as well, because you don't want to bend these motor clips. They're fragile on almost all AEGs. Alright. Now once that's through, it basically breaks down like a standard version 2 gearbox, excluding 1 screw in the back here. And I'll actually shift the camera here so you get a better angle on the gun as we take it apart here. You're going to want to use a 5/64 Allen head. I wouldn't take my information on it, I'm just reading off what the tool set says. Sorry you have to sit with me as I take off all these screws. Usually I would have done this before, but I wanted to also show you guys how to take the weapon apart. Like I said, when I was taking it apart today, I really couldn't find any type of guide on the internet, so I just thought I would do that quick little bit if any of you actually do own this gun and wanted to know how it came apart, because it can be pretty tricky. 4 on the top as normal. It doesn't really matter which order you take these screws apart in, as long as you take them out. One quick note as I remove these last 4, once I remove these last 4, I'll show you a thing you're going to want to make sure you do when you're putting this back together. Okay. Now the front 2 screws that are right here, they're Allen heads, but the heads on them are flat. Now on the back, right here, the heads on them are rounded. You're going to want to make sure you put those in the same order. Alright? I'll show you that right here. This one is in the front, right here. It's flat head. This one goes in the back, right here, and it's rounded. You're going to make sure you put those back together in the same order. Coming up on the last screw, when you're doing that, you're going to want to make sure you at least hold down on the gearbox shell just so it doesn't, explode out. One thing that's weird about this gearbox, when I take it out I'll show you, is the spring is not a full-size AEG spring. Surprised me there a little bit, but no big deal. Hopefully we won't have any big cracks or not. Take this apart, it comes apart, there we go. It comes apart just like a standard version 2 gearbox. Alright, and there we have it. Take the spring out here. Start with the spring guide. Metal spring guide, version 2. It's got 2 little shims in the back to prevent binding. Pretty nice. Like I said, the spring here is not very long. It's almost the exact length of the actual gearbox. It's really easy to put in though, but it also gives a great power. It's kind of like the spring I have in my M4. It's a shorter length M120, so it gives you a little bit good rate of fire, but also gives you an FPS boost. And here's a strange thing about this gun. It's a piston, you know, it's the standard yellow polycarb. It's ported in the front. But if you look, it only has a half rack of teeth, alright? Now, I've seen these online, and they're full metal, by the way, the teeth. Second last tooth is removed. I've seen these half rack teeth online, but I've never actually had the need to buy one. I've never actually seen one in person. But yeah, it's kind of strange. It has a half racked, you know, piston. Pretty heavy. It's got a good O-ring on it. Full steel teeth. I wouldn't imagine this breaking anytime soon. Move the tappet plate. Here's the front end. This is kind of like in most Echo 1s, they use this clear type plastic for the plastic parts. You know, you have the air seal nozzle, no O-ring, and then the tappet plate. Pretty strong, as you can see, it's not bent or anything. And then also the trigger grouping is that same exact plastic. Now the gears here, steel gears, obviously. I couldn't tell you what the ratio are or what brand they are. They're not marked at all, so I'm guessing, if I had to take a guess, they're XYZ gears. If you do know, you can comment down below and let me know. But that's my guess, is they're XYZ gears. There's no damage on them, and this gun has seen a lot of rounds, so that's a good sign. Bevel gear was first, then came this sector gear. Anti-reversal latch, a standard version 2 design. Here comes the spur gear. Like I said, there's no damage on these gears. One thing I noticed when we were taking this gun apart for the first time is it actually had a shim job on it, and it wasn't that bad of a shim job. It kept the gearbox very quiet, and was, you know, I would say wasn't half bad. I did reshim it though. I don't know if it helped that much, but yeah. We've already re-lubed this gun. We use that same white lithium super lube silicone grease, works great. Metal bushings, that's probably something I should cover. Metal bushings, they look 7mm. The outer gearbox shell, as you can see here, it's black, and when I saw that, I'm like, whoa. Because usually when you see a black gearbox shell, that means it's reinforced, but no, it's just a coating of paint. On the inside, it's standard like all other guns. So yeah, one more thing before we quit, and show you the air compression here. Like on most guns, the air compression's not the best. You can see you can push right through it, really. But it still gives a pretty good air compression, I would say. You know, this gearbox is above average quality for a Chinese gun. Definitely impressed. It's gonna last you a lot longer than most other guns, you know, like JGs. I mean, it's put together very nicely. Very surprised by the quality on this one. All the screws were tight on the outer gearbox when we were taking it apart. I mean, we really had, you know, no problems taking it apart other than the actual getting to the gearbox of the gun. So yeah, that's been the internal review of the gun. If you got any questions, you can comment down below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. You know, so yeah, that's been the internal review.